The time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible.
Capital markets in focus, public-private deals on the move, and a Fed independence warning. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Monday, January 12, 2026. I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, the Jamaica Stock Exchange 21st Investments and Capital Markets Conference sets capital-led path for economic resurgence. Also ahead, the Bahamas moves forward with land conveyances, supporting public-private transactions and unlocking new investment. And later, the U.S. Fed chair warns that Justice Department pressure could politicize interest rate policy, sparking fresh concerns over central bank independence. Stay with us as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the CBX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why CBX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
Kingston, Jamaica is a place to be in January 2026 for the 21st staging of the Regional Investment and Capital Market Conference that will be hosted by the Jamaica Stock Exchange at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. We invite you to join us as we bring together government leaders, issuers, investors, and potential investors for 3 days of insightful presentations and discussions. Register now. Seats are limited. Call 876-967-3271 or visit jamstockx.com.
Serious about building Jamaica? Build with solid PVC pipes and conduits, manufactured in Jamaica by Phosphate, made to the highest standard. Solid PVC pipes and conduits are made in Jamaica by Jamaicans for Jamaicans. Available at hardware stores across the island. Take some solid advice, support our economy, and build well. Buy solid PVC pipes. Next time, ask for solid brand PVC pipes and conduits. Call our distributors or Phosphate at 876-937-5099.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now.
Kingston, Jamaica is a place to be in January 2026 for the 21st staging of the Regional Investment and Capital Market Conference that will be hosted by the Jamaica Stock Exchange at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. We invite you to join us as we bring together government leaders, issuers, investors, and potential investors for 3 days of insightful presentations and discussions. Register now. Seats are limited. Call 876-967-3271 or visit jamstockx.com.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited has been a part of Jamaica's manufacturing landscape for over 20 years. By crafting unique flavors and fragrances, we have become a part of your favorite household and food items such as beverages, ice cream, household cleaners, and much more. Known throughout the Caribbean for the highest quality, we continue to innovate with strong leadership, a dedicated team with integrity. We go the extra mile for our customers. Create the next taste sensation. Contact us at 876-9235-111 or visit our website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn pages.
Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. What you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out. Yeah. Build up your body, boost up your brain. Take on the world now. Say bye-bye pain. Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. Be good to you. Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. Distributed by Amalgamated Distributors Limited.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with the upcoming JSE Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference. The Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE, is positioning capital markets at the center of the region's next growth phase as it rolls out an ambitious agenda for its 2026 Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference set for January 20 to 22nd in Kingston. Under the theme, Capital Markets, Fueling Economic Resurgence and Resilience. This 21st staging of the conference brings together policymakers, investors, regulators, and business leaders at a time when global uncertainty, geopolitical risk, climate pressures, and rising government debt are reshaping how capital flows across emerging markets. The JSE says the 3-day forum will go beyond discussion, focusing on practical solutions to unlock investment, strengthen regional integration, and expand access to financing for Caribbean businesses from MSMEs to large corporations. A major highlight this year is the revamped Venture Capital Pitch Room, now repositioned to maximize investor exposure. The initiative is designed to create a stronger pipeline of companies for listing on the JSE's junior market and the soon-to-be-launched micro market, reinforcing the exchange's role as a catalyst for entrepreneurship and wealth creation. The conference will also sharpen focus on CARICOM's stock market integration, natural resource value creation, and deepened partnerships with African, Caribbean, and Pacific states as the region seeks to tap new markets, diversify risk, and build economic resilience through capital-led development. Jamaica's securities dealers have delivered a striking financial comeback, swinging decisively from losses to profitability as stronger revenues and tighter cost controls reshaped sector performance. According to the Financial Services Commission's FSC Securities Sector Quarterly Review for September 2025, core securities dealers recorded a combined net profit before tax of 14 billion Jamaican dollars for the 9 months ended September 2025. This reflects a sharp turnaround from the $1.65 billion loss reported over the same period in 2024. The reversal marks one of the most significant year-on-year improvements for the sector in recent years, reflecting both improved market conditions and more disciplined balance sheet management. Total revenues climbed strongly during the period, while expenses declined, allowing profitability to rebound at pace. The FSC attributed the earnings recovery largely to higher non-interest income, driven by improved trading profits on debt securities, alongside a meaningful reduction in interest expenses as repo liabilities fell. The result was a near tenfold improvement in pre-tax earnings compared with the prior year's loss position. The profit rebound also translated into stronger returns for shareholders. Return on equity rose to 9.7%, up from 2.7% a year earlier, signaling more efficient use of capital across the industry. At the same time, regulatory capital and prudential ratios remained well above FSC benchmarks, underscoring balance sheet resilience even as earnings accelerated. The government is facing mounting fiscal pressure mid-year as tax revenues fell short of budget targets, according to central government operations outturn data from the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. For the April to November period of the fiscal year, tax collections totaled approximately Jamaican $565 billion, coming in about $9 billion below the $574 billion that had been projected. The revenue underperformance reflects weaker than anticipated inflows, prompting the government to tighten spending during the same period. As a result, expenditure was held roughly at Jamaican $2 billion below plan, helping to cushion the impact of the revenue shortfall. Despite the softer revenue position, the fiscal deficit was narrower than expected, amounting to Jamaican $38.7 billion compared with a budgeted deficit of $42 billion, a sign that expenditure controls limited further slippage. However, the weaker revenue position translated into higher financing needs, with borrowing exceeding the original plan by about $9.1 billion over the review period. In other news, C3 Metals Incorporated has fully resumed exploration activities in Jamaica after restoring all project infrastructure damaged by Hurricane Melissa, bringing drilling programs back on stream and stabilizing its 2025 work plan. The company says operations restarted following the October 28 storm, with access roads, equipment, and field systems repaired across its key sites. At the 50% owned Super Block project, Phase 1 scout drilling is back underway, with 7 of 14 holes completed in a 2,500-meter program, keeping exploration momentum intact. Drilling also resumed at the 100% owned Bellas Gate project, where work is being advanced under an earn-in agreement with Freeport McMoran Exploration Corporation, which is funding exploration costs. A 70-square-kilometer 3DIP geophysical survey has also restarted, with 46 square kilometers completed so far. Alongside operations, C3 Metals rolled out a community assistance program supporting about 500 families across 3 communities with food supplies, road repairs, and housing materials. We move to the latest updates from the JSE Equities. In Monday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 116 stocks, of which 53 advanced, 41 declined, and 22 traded firm. Leading the winners are West Indies Petroleum Terminal, 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, Mayberry Jamaican Equities, and First Rock Real Estate Investments USD. While leading the losers are VM Investments, Berger Paints Jamaica, Pan Jamaica Group, and Blue Power Group. The main index advanced by 4,565.08 points to close at 332,605 points. The junior market index advanced by 13.11 points or 0.39% to close at 3,373.45 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, we're looking at Free on Board, or FOB. FOB is a shipping term that defines the exact point at which responsibility for goods transfers from the seller to the buyer. Set out in contracts and purchase orders, FOB terms determine who owns the goods, who bears the risk of loss, and who pays transportation costs while the shipment is in transit. By classifying shipments as FOB origin or FOB destination, businesses clearly establish when cost and risk shift during delivery. These distinctions play a key role in pricing, insurance coverage, customs responsibilities, and the handling of disputes in international trade.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
Kingston, Jamaica is a place to be in January 2026 for the 21st staging of the Regional Investment and Capital Market Conference that will be hosted by the Jamaica Stock Exchange at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. We invite you to join us as we bring together government leaders, issuers, investors, and potential investors for 3 days of insightful presentations and discussions. Register now. Seats are limited. Call 876-967-3271 or visit jamstockx.com.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. St. Lucia's Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre says the country's economy has rebounded, with new figures showing unemployment falling to its lowest level for 2025. Speaking during his New Year's address on Sunday, the Prime Minister pointed to economic stabilization, renewed job creation, and improving investor confidence as key drivers of recovery.
Over the past 4 years, we have worked deliberately to stabilize the economy, protect the most vulnerable, and rebuild opportunity. Our economy has recovered. Jobs have returned. Unemployment has dropped to its lowest level, and confidence has been restored. But more importantly, we have remained guided by a single principle: government must work for people.
Looking ahead, Pierre says his administration is now shifting its focus towards deepening private sector growth.
We'll therefore redouble our efforts through the reconfigured Ministry of Thomas and tourism to work more closely with the private sector to ensure that the rehabilitation at the Castries Cargo Port is completed at the earliest. In addition, together with the private sector, we'll work to streamline procedures for the clearing of goods from the ports to be more efficient and timely.
That was Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Pierre. St. Kitts and Nevis is positioning itself for a major economic and energy transformation as government-backed renewable energy projects move from planning into execution. With promises of lower electricity costs, improved energy security, and the creation of high-value jobs, the Federation is accelerating its shift away from fossil fuels and towards cleaner, more sustainable power. Against that backdrop, Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew says a fully financed geothermal project alongside 5 additional energy initiatives is now on track, with execution scheduled to begin as early as 2026.
All the analysis and evaluation has been done, and that is expected not only to give us cheaper energy, but to help to transition the economy, because renewable energy for us is much cheaper than fossil fuel, which we are subsidizing heavily to keep the cost of living down here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
That was Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew. In other news, the Bahamas House of Assembly has approved a series of financial resolutions under the Ministry of Finance Act, authorizing land conveyances and exchanges involving the Treasury and private companies. The move is expected to support more efficient asset management while facilitating ongoing public-private financial transactions. Speaking in Parliament recently, House Speaker Patricia Duvois says the measures form part of the government's broader fiscal management strategy.
This House approves the land exchange by which the Treasurer conveys that the lands in the first schedule to Vacus Limited, and Vacus Limited conveys the lands in the second schedule to the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It is signed by Senator Barry N. Griffin, and it was also on 11th of December, 2025. I now lay this document on the table.
That was the Bahamas House Speaker, Patricia Duvois. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from the trading in 21 securities, of which 4 advanced, 5 declined, and 12 traded firm. Today's winners are Point Lissa's Industrial Port Development Corporation, Angostura Holdings, Massey Holdings, and Scotiabank Trinidad and Tobago, while leading the losers are A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings, National Enterprises, Agostini Limited, and Republic Financial Holdings. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All-TNT Index declined by 5.12 points to close at 1,380.96. The Composite Index declined by 2.66 points to close at 953.19. The Cross-Listed Index remained at 69.32. The SME Index remained at 94.07. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Are so much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
In international news, the United Nations is warning the world economy is heading into 2026 steady but subdued, with growth expected to cool and trade momentum set to soften despite easing inflation. In its World Economic Situation and Prospects 2026 report, Assistant Secretary General for Economic Development Navid Hanif says the UN forecasts global growth of 2.7% this year, down slightly from 2.8% in 2025 and well below the pre-pandemic average pace.
Growth has remained steady, below pre-pandemic rates, but stronger than previously anticipated. We project economic growth to stabilize at 2.7% this year, compared to 2.8% in 2025. Last year, sharp tariff hikes disrupted global trade. Yet the system proved more resilient than anticipated. But resilience should not be mistaken for strength. Beneath the headline numbers lie persistent risks and deep imbalances. For instance, high debt burdens and shrinking fiscal space are constraining investment.
That was UN Assistant Secretary General for Economic Development, Navid Hanif. While global policymakers grapple with slowing growth and rising uncertainty, concerns over policy credibility are also emerging in the United States. A legal confrontation between the U.S. Justice Department and the Federal Reserve has raised fresh questions about the independence of U.S. monetary policy after the central bank disclosed it has been served with grand jury subpoenas that could lead to a criminal indictment. In a public address on Sunday, the Fed Chair Jerome Powell says the legal threat stems from testimony delivered to the Senate Banking Committee last June and is formally linked to a multi-year renovation of historic Federal Reserve buildings.
I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the Chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
The Fed chair framed the dispute as a fundamental test of whether monetary policy will continue to be guided by inflation, employment, and financial conditions, or by political pressure.
This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people.
That was U.S. Fed Chair Jerome Powell. And those concerns are already rippling through financial markets, with investors turning to gold as a safe haven. Gold prices surged to a record high on Monday as investors sought the traditional safe haven amid growing concerns that the independence of the Federal Reserve could be undermined by political pressure. Gold futures climbed nearly 2.7% to around US $4,625 an ounce after touching an all-time high of US $4,640 earlier in the session. The precious metal has now gained more than 4% over the past week. According to Chief Investment Strategist at Oppenheimer, John Stoltzfus, the rally reflects a combination of safe haven demand, persistent inflation pressures, and expectations that the Fed will still be forced to cut interest rates later this year. And while investors pushed gold to record highs in search of safety, not all commodities moved in the same direction. Wheat futures slid towards US $5.10 per bushel on Monday, hovering near early January lows after fresh US government crop and inventory estimates reinforced expectations of looser supply conditions and weighed on grain markets. In its latest outlook, the U.S. Department of Agriculture projected larger U.S. wheat supplies for the 2025-26 season, reflecting higher beginning stocks, lower domestic use, and unchanged exports. Ending stocks were raised to 926 million bushels, an 8% increase from a year earlier, underscoring ample availability. The USDA also trimmed feed, residual, and seed use, further adding to the supply overhang. Sentiment across the grains complex weakened further after the report showed record-high U.S. corn stocks, increasing pressure on wheat prices through spillover effects. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, JSE 2026 Regional Conference sets capital-led path for economic resurgence. Regionally, the Bahamas approves land conveyances to support public-private transactions. And internationally, Fed Chair warns DOJ threat risk politicizing U.S. interest rate policy. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.